Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to the Fort Worth 148 Masonic Podcast. My name is Evie Kirkendall. I'm the chaplain and past master of Fort Worth 148.
Brandy Patton, current Worshipful Master of Fort Worth 148.
This is Cody Cox, Senior Warden of Fort Worth Lodge number 148.
And we've got a couple of members here that are joining us from our secret, undisclosed location at our Lodge Summit. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, Sean DeBon, past master, Fort Worth Lodge number 148.
Hey everybody, Omar Galiazzi, current Junior Warden, Fort Worth 148.
Well, welcome back, guys. And the first thing we want to do is give a big shout out. We've got a couple of listeners across the pond.
Yes, this shout out goes to Luke Daisley. We know that you are listening to us, and hopefully you're doing this in the shop. And I might get to training, but we don't know about that quite yet.
Yes, Luke has been listening to us. He's given us some feedback about our podcast from all the way across in where they fly Union Jacks, and so we are raising a toast to our brothers across the pond in England. Cheers to you all. Thank you for listening and being great Masons over there across the pond. We celebrate all the good things you guys do over there.
And again, if Kim Jong-un is listening to this, thank you for listening to our podcast.
Yeah, we do have one
Fearless
member
Leader.
from North Korea who's
yes,
listening.
We
so
like that.
We really appreciate you listening to us.
I think it's Dennis Rodman's iPhone he left, but...
Okay, well,
Okay, thank you, the worm. Okay.
Thank you, the worm. So well, we are at our secret undisclosed location. We are sitting outside on the patio outside this beautiful log cabin overlooking the Texas
Oklahoma.
Hill country.
Oklahoma, right
basically,
there.
yeah, we are right across the border from Oklahoma.
Now it's disclosed.
Now it's not
It's a big
exactly.
border.
It's a big border. It's one of the largest borders
Not
in the U.S.
not a casino in sight.
Not a casino in sight. There's nothing in sight.
Stop giving clues to where we're at, gentlemen, okay?
So, but yeah, we thought we just dropped our podcast that previewed our event that we're doing, and so we thought we would do a quick couple of recordings here at the summit. The first thing we want to do to kind of get the bullpen warmed up a little bit is one of the things that we have actually talked about is our dress and appearance standards here at 148. We wanted to make sure that we were talking about it, we were enforcing it and codifying it wherever we needed to and putting it in our rules and regulations that govern how we as members come into Lodge. And so our brother Sean DeBon here, he gave us a little bit of a talk about some standards of dress and things that he is an expert in. He is a little bit of a fashion connoisseur. And so that's what we want to talk about. So what about dress and appearance is important to Masonry? Why is our dress and appearance important? And why should it be something that lodges are talking about and thinking about when it comes to their members? So what are some of y'all's thoughts about that?
Well, I think we should probably start with the guy that actually knows about this, because I'm going to admit a lot of the stuff that he talked about today I kind of knew, but at the same time I really wasn't sure of. So I'd like to hear directly from the clothes horse's mouth.
So I think that your dress and appearance is a direct reflection of your commitment to whatever it is you're doing. And while our organization is fraternal, it is... a nonprofit, we're still professionals in the sense that we practice our craft to improve ourselves, and we want to present a professional look and a professional front to the public, the profane as we sometimes refer to them, but the public, right? The non-Mason type people, so that we are immediately perceived as a positive force, not a negative force. And it may not be right or it may not be popular to think about, but if it looks good and smells good, generally it is good. And so if you look professional and look clean and dignified, you present that to the world.
Well, and we kind of know that as well, that when we wear a particular type of style of clothing or we look good, one, it kind of puts us into a different type of feel. It puts us into a different type of air.
State of mind?
A state of mind. And then honestly, we also talk about the fact that, if we look good, we feel good, there's something that happens to us. And when people give us compliments, that also kind of boosts our morale and our good feelings about ourselves. So that's a positive to this.
And I also think it's about respect, both for yourself and about your fellow brothers that you are in lodge with. If you are coming dressed like a homeless person,
Unhoused, sir.
an unhoused person, then it is most certainly it most certainly changes the way that you're perceived. One of the conversations that we had during the conversation was in the kind of the recommendations on what makes a successful observant lodge. There's a document out there. It's written by worshipful brother Andrew Hammer, past master of Alba Lodge number 222. And he lists 8 different standards that he identified as an observant lodge meeting at the highest level of standards. And of course, these are all goals that we should aspire to. They're not prescriptive, they are much more descriptive of success. And one of the things that he lists is number 5 is dressing your best for lodge. And it's not about, I think, about dressing in such a way that you're elitist or that you are trying to be holier or higher than thou, but it is a certain amount of respect. There's another past master in our lodge, Brother Billy Hamilton. He is a big fan of reminding people that you don't necessarily dress for the job you have, you dress for the job you want. And that's what we do in our professional lives. So why wouldn't we bring that same energy to what we look like in
Brother
our
Billy
lodges?
is very dapper, almost
And
24/7.
he is
too.
much,
he is
yeah.
a dapper dresser. He usually wears some of the coolest clothes and the most professional looking clothes. He is always dressing well above what I think our base standards are here at 148 are.
I try to bring the standard lower. So,
And you do that well, brother.
thank you.
Well, and I think it's also important to let our listeners know the reason that we're talking about dress and why we looked at these 8 kind of things for the observant lodge. Brother Omar, why don't you talk a little bit about, just give us a brief thing about this document as far as how it affected 148 quite a few years ago. That's part of the reason that you were doing a presentation on this paper. Can you speak to that real quick?
Yeah, so pretty much we, back in 2017, somebody in our lodge, and I apologize, I forget who it was, but stumbled across this paper called The 8 Steps to Excellence, the Observant Lodge. And what we did is we took those 8 steps, which at the basic value of them, every lodge at a minimum should be doing these. So we just took the 8 steps and then we kind of created and added more to it. And what it ended up happening is we started doing more education events. People actually started showing up in suits. If you're on our degree team, you have to be in all black. So we started setting a minimum standard for the lodge. And when people come visit us, people are always extremely impressed by our degree work, how professional everybody looks, just everything, how efficient our meetings are. So just to kind of go through them real quick, not to spend a lot of time on them, but like step number 1 is guarding the West Gate. Step number 2 is being proficient in Masonic ritual and law. Step 3 is a commitment to advance brethren through the degrees by mutual and genuine effort. Step 4, the selection of advancement of officers should be by merit only. Number 5, dressing your best for lodge. 6, a lodge must offer quality assemblies and be willing to pay for them. Number 7 is the return to a sense of awe in our ceremonies. And number 8 is Masonic education at every meeting. At a minimum, every lodge should be doing that, but we took those 8 steps and we just added more to them because of what we charge for our dues. We can't charge that and not expect to give more to the Masonic experience and the initiatic experience for people coming into our lodge and staying in our lodge.
And I think that it's also worth noting that while this document does kind of outline the behaviors that are minimum standards for observant lodges, we are by no means either an observant lodge or a traditional observant lodge, a TO lodge. We kind of pride ourselves on being an everyman's lodge that strives to bring value to our members. And so the way that we approached this was, how can we adapt these ideas in an everyman's lodge that's going to increase value and make members want to be a part of Freemasonry, and to get people excited about the craft again. And we talked about at our last podcast that, personally, this is one of those things that where we get to sit around in a place like this and enjoy some time and do Masonry. We are having some great fellowshipping here. And I think dress and appearance is one of those ways that as a lodge, we can definitely elevate the experience and the value we bring very simply just by dressing a little bit better. And it's not about how much money you spend, and it's not how much, it's not about wearing Gucci shoes and Versace pants. It's really just about looking.
I thought it was Versace.
Versace.
Isn't it Versace?
Versace.
Versace. So I think what we probably should do, since we have our esteemed brother here with us, is if he can share with our listening audience, what are some of the things that you talked about in regard to dress that, maybe our listeners can implement in their lodge, or maybe start taking some simple steps. Can you share with us?
And I would also add, kind of maybe start with, what do you think are the landmines that lodges in terms of dress and appearance might step on that can be addressed through dress and appearance? Things like, I'll just start it off, like wearing flip-flops or shorts to lodge, those sorts of things.
Being that we're all sitting here in shorts and flip-flops currently.
Listen, we're
Omar's got loafers on.
outside and we're comfy, okay?
No, I mean, I think as with any place, some of the dress things that could come up is, maybe you have a brother who has an affinity and wears T-shirts or something like that with some sort of logos, and maybe either unaware or aware that those kind of things might be a little harsh or offensive, and he's representing the public face of your fraternity for visitors and guests to your meetings. So, that kind of thing, having logoed clothing. And then... also, if you're wearing work clothing or something like that, I've had an experience where someone had an unfortunate clothing mishap due to the nature of the clothing that they were wearing. So, being in a set of clothes that's a little nicer, a little more well kept, is a benefit in myriad of ways. So, some of the things. I just gave what we Marine Corps veterans are fond of calling a hip pocket class, about a short talk about just what kind of, even what do the levels of clothing mean? If someone says business casual, what the heck are they talking about? What applies? Because in our society today, a lot of those lines are being blurred anyway. But so I talked about, what's the difference between a formal suit and a tuxedo? Tuxedos have satin or silk lapels and either a satin or silk stripe on the pants, and it's a specific garment, not just a black suit. And then when you do talk about a black suit, what defines formal and those kind of things? What kind of occasions what does black tie mean? Does it just mean wear a black tie, or does it mean tuxedo? Which, generally it does mean a tuxedo type event, bow ties and evening gowns for the fairer sex present at the fun. But just kind of identifying some of those things, teaching some of the younger guys who maybe haven't had a formal education in dress, and that'll help them so that they don't end up being the kind of person that shows up to a job interview in a T-shirt. But we're supposed to, in some fashion, develop our members. Whether you're a member of the Masons who believe that our sole purpose is making good men better, or what. In some form, you're supposed to be developing each other to be better than we are today. And so learning more and improving yourself and dressing for the way you want to be perceived, the job you want is the way you can do that very easily.
I just want to reiterate or express, it's not gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Me personally, my gut feeling is I want the candidate, brother, whatever, to be comfortable in the lodge room. And if they're wearing flip flops and shorts, they probably shouldn't feel comfortable. So, I mean, they need to be educated on that, why you don't do that. Show some respect for the people you're with.
True.
Well, and wouldn't you say that part of this also goes to the fact of what we're really doing in the fraternity as well as men and as brothers is challenging each other, iron sharpens iron, that type of thing. Getting guys to that next level, because like you said, we may have younger members that didn't have that training as they were growing up, and so we're kind of getting them to the next step to improve their lives by knowing how to dress in a particular way when they're going on a when they're going on a job interview or something like that. Brother Omar, what you got?
So one thing that I talk about a lot in lodge or just in general is I think what we do as a fraternity that we should strive to do a lot better, and we really fail at, is using people's knowledge to spread throughout your lodge, right? So you have people who know how to do IT, financing, people who know how to dress correctly. How many times has anybody from your lodge went to that person and was like, hey, can you give us a 2-minute talk on how to dress properly, how to do a will, how to buy a house? There's a wealth of knowledge in Masonry that we don't tap into, and it's free because it's people that are in your lodge.
And I think that that's one of the things, at least in Texas Freemasonry, that we were kind of founded around. I mean, before there was a public education system here in the state of Texas, Freemasonry was kind of the place where men could get together who had different expertise, and they could get together and learn from one another. I think if we think anciently, that's how our ancient craftsmen brethren used to share knowledge. They would have more experienced brothers share with the younger brothers the things that were important for success. That is obviously, translated into a more speculative enterprise that we are now in, and being able to share knowledge, like Brother Omar was saying, to have somebody. We actually have in our lodge a communication channel that actually asks, allows members to ask, is there somebody in the craft that we know of that has expertise in this subject? Do we know somebody who has expertise in technology, plumbing, electricians, things like that, so that we can not only support those brothers in their professional enterprises, but also learn ourselves more about the things that we are not experts in. And I think, dress and appearance is one of those things that we have allowed as a society to fall by the wayside. And we don't think about those things. And in our conversations today, we had several of our younger brethren who had some really thoughtful questions about, well, if I want to look this way, what sort of outfit am I going to wear? Should I wear? Are these shoes appropriate? It was a space where guys don't always get together and talk about those things. Let's be honest, but we did, and I think it was a generative conversation. It was life-giving to me.
Yeah, sometimes it could be something as simple as knowing little things like that your shoes and your belt should match. That's a simple thing, but if nobody ever told you, some of us are fortunate we're military veterans, the Marine Corps specifically. For me, we're just dumb jarheads. But, we are put through a full regiment during recruit training about the proper way to dress. Black socks goes with black shoes always, no matter what. If you're wearing black shoes, your socks need to be black. And then we learn those things. How do ties work? What's the point? How do you tie them? What's the look supposed to be? And all those kinds of things. But some kids are growing up. I mean, what's the single parent rate for single moms in the United States? It's crazy.
Well, yeah, no, and I look at it this way too. When we are thinking about something even as trivial, and some people might say trivial, as dress, one of the things that we're doing in our lodge is we are, again, trying to improve the lodge. We're trying to improve members' lives by talking about some of this stuff that people may not necessarily think about. So we're adding value to our members. We're adding value to their membership as well, and we've discussed that as well.
Well, that's merely one of the topics that we've talked about. We also want to shift and pivot a little bit more towards now some of the other conversations that we had. Brother Cody here, he put together a really great agenda, and for the most part, we stuck to it pretty well.
We did it.
We did it.
Yes.
We stuck to our time frame pretty well, and we talked about all the subjects that we needed to talk about. One of the things that we addressed, and we talked about this in a previous podcast about this idea of a document called Rules and Regulations. If you, I don't want to belabor that again. If you are wondering what rules and regulations are, you can listen to one of our previous podcasts about what the rules and regulations really are. But it's just a quick document that outlines the things that are not in our bylaws that we want to affirm as being important to us, and that we can have a document that says this is what we are going to do, and these are the standards that we have. So Cody, Brandy, why don't y'all start off by talking about some of the things that we talked about, and how it kind of the discussion shaped.
Well, I'll say for the most part, with the discussions that we had, there were some discussions where we could tell that we were kind of all on the same level. So those went fairly quick. And of course, there were some things where we got to really get a sense for where the lodges and where our differences are. And I'm very proud to say that as a lodge, we're sitting here, we set ourselves a time, we had those discussions, but as soon as everything was done, even if it got contentious, we came out onto the porch and we were able to sit around, and there was laughter, and we were hanging out as brothers. There was nobody that left with hurt feelings or anything like that. We're still here. We're still hanging out. So it was a success. I still, personally, if your lodge has never had what, again, you've heard me say this before, a family session where you talk about things that might be uncomfortable to talk about, I am telling you, you can have those conversations, and we are living proof that you will come out on the other side, and you'll be even better. It's a shared experience that we've all had here. And we can talk about, do you remember the really difficult conversation that we had about X, Y, or Z? And we can kind of all go around that. So to kind of start off with just a recap of what we've done, we started off yesterday. We finished going through all of the roles and responsibilities of the appointed officers. We looked at the elected officers last year. We finished out with the appointed officers. We were able to kind of really get down to the nitty-gritty and decide what each of those roles and responsibilities are. And I think that we really have some robust descriptions of those roles and responsibilities.
I'll just summarize it. Tyler does everything. He's in charge of it all. Just kidding.
No longer the secretary.
Yes, we have, as a past secretary, I've done my best to relieve him of some work. One thing I've done, I'm getting on a different tangent, just tie things to chairs. But
we're not tying people to chairs. Let's make sure that we...
Sometimes.
well, it's still early. The sun's out. I mean, there's plenty of chairs here. Just responsibilities are important, and we're actually putting them in writing that we're going to hand a document to candidates. This is what we expect of you, instead of going in blind, not knowing what to do.
And I don't know if y'all hit this before, but the big part about having these things in writing is the handoff. And again, obviously, a lot of us lean heavily on our military experience, but having, that leadership handoff with as much information as possible makes it so much easier for the guys coming in, the new officers, the newer Masons, to know what to do and to be successful at it. It's a bumper guards at the bowling alley for success.
Yeah, my first chair was secretary after being freshly raised, and man, that's a lot of work.
Well, and let's be honest, it's unfair for us to hold officers to a standard if those officers don't know what the standard is to begin with. So we're actually doing our officers and people that are going to be making themselves available for these positions. We're doing them a favor by handing them a document and saying, as 148, this is what we are going to expect from you as our elected junior warden, as our elected secretary. If you are chosen by the incoming worshipful master to be appointed as the senior deacon, these are going to be your responsibilities, and having those honest discussions. Can you do this? Because that's going to allow us to help that brother not fail in that position and to hold him accountable. So I think that's something really profound from what we've done.
And one of the other things that we did, and we actually did it after that discussion, was we chose to include the duties of the officers as part of our rules and regulations. So now those duties have the same sort of weight as the other rules that we have. So rather it just being a recommendation, these are now codified as part of the existing governing documents of our lodge. So if we want to change these things, they are now binding. It's not just a recommendation. It's not just a suggestion. It's not just a guide for success. These are the codified expectations. We chose to do this at this juncture, I think, largely as a reflection of that. Now that this is a complete document, we've managed to get through all of the elected officers and now all of the appointed officers. We've been able to now feel confident enough with that to codify it in a really meaningful way. And I think that that's an important distinction. I don't think we would necessarily want to start there, or if you're out there thinking about how to do this, I don't think it's necessarily a great idea to start with codification and putting it into a governing document. But I think that we feel comfortable enough with it now that we can,
at least start having the conversations.
Absolutely.
If you're, writing the things down, having them there as notations and stuff like that, I think would be an important place to start. But this, again, we're thinking about this. This is the second year that we've done this, so this has not been an overnight process. So I am fairly confident that the document that we're taking back to the lodge and to the members that were not here is a quality document that they can see that there was a lot of thought put into this. Omar, what are you thinking?
I think you're completely right. So especially like at our lodge where, the junior warden is responsible for so much, to have a document that shows, hey, you're stepping into one of the principal's officer positions in the lodge, and here are all of your duties. All right, can you commit to getting all these completed and doing them well? And then also having points of contact. So like we have a point of contact for our Black Tie Gala, Masonicon, this retreat that we're at, anything that we do, who we order food from for, stated meetings and different kind of parties that we do. So having that has helped me so much in making it easier and, creating a book and, adding to it from everything that I learned this year. Whoever steps up and makes themselves available for the South and 148, their life is going to be even easier than what mine was and then what Brandy's was before that.
And I will have to say, as the worshipful master of the year that Brandy was our junior warden, Brandy kind of set the standard for what junior wardens are expected to do at 148, and he did it with excellence. And I think it was his role as junior warden that guided our codification process of the junior warden's role. Not to say that anybody before him didn't do a great job or that anybody after him isn't doing or won't do a great job. It was just like Brandy, through all of his chairs, has done really great job at setting a very high standard. So kudos to you, and that's not me sucking up because I'm already a past master, so it doesn't matter.
This isn't blushing. I'm sunburned.
So then we closed out yesterday with a great meal.
Absolutely.
We had some great tater salad from one of our brothers sitting over here listening to us. Let me tell you, that tater salad was amazing.
That was tip top.
Everybody has been asking for that recipe.
Some more tonight, yeah.
Yeah, we ate more of it. It was a giant bowl like the size of this table, and I think we ate the entire vat of it, didn't we? Between like 10 of us.
We're coming close to it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the great thing was after we finished last night, we were able to still have some time to fellowship, have some good discussions and things like that. I know that's what a lot of us are looking forward to again tonight. Got up this morning. We had lots of vegetables and lots of fruit, maybe some eggs and maybe some steak. Okay,
And some bacon.
and some bacon. So
It was good.
Good bacon.
if you hear arteries clogging, that might be a thing.
We took our orange juice with a Lipitor chaser this morning.
That was the crispiest bacon I've ever. You couldn't even pick it up; it just exploded in your hand.
I do enjoy. I cook. Okay, I admit it. I cook the bacon. We one of the little. This is a little aside here. The stove here at this cabin. It has one burner that works, and it's like the size of the palm of your hand. And cooking for like 15 people with 4 pounds of bacon. It took me a good 2 hours to cook all the bacon.
He's a real trooper for
stood
making all
there,
that bacon.
And let me tell you,
Yes.
the first thing in the morning, having bacon grease popping all over you is an adventure. So
He was wearing a shirt.
I was wearing a
That's
shirt.
right. Adventures in Brotherhood.
Adventures in
Cooking
Brotherhood.
bacon on one burner.
Yeah, cooking all the food on
Yes.
one burner. It was crazy.
So we started off with a really good meal so that we could get our minds in that, and then we got right back to work. We started this morning, of course, with prayer from our Reverend Evie Kirkendall, and then we got into the idea. We started talking about our rules and regulations. We took a look at what we had previously had, and just kind of went through and said, okay, do we still think these things apply? Do we need to change any of those? We did have some good discussion about those types of things.
There were some that we almost were kind of concerned that we weren't going to be able to work out.
Yeah, we
And
had
then
two that we were.
We had a little bit of extra time towards the end that we went back and circled back to them, and we were able to hammer out something that I think is going to be a good document 1.0, and that we can bring back to the lodge confidently.
And I will mention with this one, I've said it to the brothers quite a few times over this weekend, and if you're considering doing something like this, it would be a good idea to let your brothers know that, again, these documents that you're working on, this is like the first iteration. It's okay for you not to have it perfect the very first time. If you put these documents together, you say, yay, we've got these, and you never go back and visit them, then there wasn't even a reason to visit them in the first place. This has got to be an iterative process. So we kind of said, is this good enough for 1.0? We're gonna see how things work over the next year, and then probably at the next lodge summit, we'll revisit and revise and go back to the lodge with that one. So we went through that process, and then Brother
It's probably
Owen-
worth
Yeah.
mentioning at this point too that I think that like a listener out there who isn't familiar with 148 or Texas Masonry might think that we're
What's
out here.
wrong with them?
Right? What's wrong with you? They might think that we're sitting around here kind of in an ivory tower making all the decisions for the lodge, and that we are not including more voices. What this is going to do is we are generating the first recommendation. We're taking this at our next stated meeting to the lodge. They are then going to review it. They're going to look at all the recommendations for rules and regulations that we have brought forth that include things about our finances, things about our recommended dress and appearance, about how we handle our candidates, about how we handle just general decorum,
how we handle the bell.
and how we handle a historic object of our lodge, which is our historic bell that was part of the fort of Fort Worth before the city of Fort Worth existed, and the rules surrounding handling that and transporting it to places where it needs to be. All of those things are going to be presented to the lodge, and then they are going to get to have a voice. We're going to have an amendment process where they're going to get to say, oh, we need to strike this area, we need to circle back on this and maybe rethink this a little bit closer, and then we're going to have a vote on it that is then even going to carry over yet another meeting in the event that one of our brothers that isn't in attendance wants to come and have their opinions made known. And so that whenever this document is actually voted either up or down, it is not just going to be the voices that are at this retreat.
Right.
It is going to be the entire voices of a quorum of Freemasons at our lodge.
And
But
it's,
most of us are here.
it's actually shorter than it was too.
Yeah, we actually cut
We
a
did.
tremendous amount out that we were just like, why do we have that in our rules and regulations?
I've never had so much passion about sentence structure in my life.
The grammar Nazis were out. Let me put it that way. We said,
Listen, try being the guy that was behind the computer typing as you guys were like
How many times
barking
did
at me.
how many times did we
Oh,
change
that comma splice.
Shall.
shall and will?
Shall.
Shall
Listen,
and
peace
will.
and harmony. Peace and harmony and shall are starting to be words that are in my vocabulary that make me shudder.
Who's got
just
the
a little
tattoo
bit.
gun?
Yeah, really. So then, after we were done with that, Omar, we went through the. We went through the process of our family session, and Omar, as our junior warden, was kind enough to take on the family session. So, Omar, can you tell our listeners a little bit about that process and how you felt that went?
Yeah, so I sent a message out to our most active members and some of our non-active members about I was doing a presentation at this Lodge Summit about what do they feel as members of Fort Worth 148 we can do better at Lodge, and kept it completely confidential. I'm the only person who knows who sent what, wrote everything down, and then presented each bullet point to the members that are here. Some of them were, I think probably one of the biggest ones was an issue that I feel like, and most everybody who wrote that it was an issue, feels like that we've already kind of not necessarily resolved it, but we've put a plan into place that hopefully if we continue with this plan, it will resolve the main complaint. And then there's probably about 8 or 9 issues that people kind of express their concerns about, and we just kind of discussed it if it was not necessarily a valid point or not a valid point, but was there any merit behind it, and did it actually affect the lodge, or is it more kind of just somebody's like personal feeling? There was a lot of engagement, and I honestly think that it went very well, and we were able to kind of figure out and kind of start putting into place at least plans or ideas of how to resolve these issues, or at least how to address them, so people understand that, as a lodge, we do care about what you think, and we want to make sure that you're happy coming to lodge, and that you don't have any issues with either progressing or people in lodge or understanding, what the standards are.
And part of the reason that we had this session prior to lunch is because we wanted to kind of hear those types of things, and as we were having lunch, discuss those, so that when we came back, if those are genuine concerns of the lodge, we could have the discussion here. Is this something that we need to put into the rules and regulations to address that? Or is this something that we just need to have conversations about at lodge and not necessarily put into rules and regulations? So that's where that kind of conversation went. Sean, what do you think? As a past master, how did you feel that session went? What kind of value did you see in it?
I think way better than expected. When you move forward with the idea of we're going to have a gripe fest, because essentially that's what it is. It's a gripe fest. If you have much experience with ever doing a situation like that, you'll kind of be super jaded and expect the worst. So, but no, I mean, it was really beneficial. It went really smoothly, and I think that peace and harmony prevailed. Peace and harmony.
Ugh, peace and
Shall
harmony.
prevail. Oh, peace and harmony shall.
Peas and
Shall prevail.
peas and hominy. Peas
To
and
your
hominy.
point, though, there were some discussions that I knew we were going to have that I honestly felt like was going to get way out of hand, and people were going to get their feelings hurt, and it was going to maybe not start a riff in the lodge, but like
Upset peace and harmony.
yeah, upset peace and harmony. And
Why are we using those words? Stop.
and I honestly believe that didn't happen. Everybody walked away with a new sense of understanding, and just watching some of the body language, I feel like the issues that were brought up, maybe some people took them personal, but in a good way. Like, hey,
We were doing it out of
yeah,
love.
we were doing it out of
you know,
love, or then, hey, maybe I'm doing that, or I'm having that issue, and hearing kind of how people are addressing it. I think some people, just based off of body language and how people reacted to what was brought up and what was said, I feel like people kind of took it to heart, and hopefully will change and kind of understand that, we want this for the betterment of the lodge and for the betterment of the members here.
Are you going to use this as a plug to make the podcast a YouTube channel so that everybody can look really good? being that body language is 80% of communication.
Yeah, I only have a face for radio, so.
I think we all only have a face for radio. What are you talking about?
Unanimous. Pretty
I think it's also, I can imagine if I were listening to this podcast, I would be like, they sure are talking around a lot of stuff. And I would really be interested in knowing what a couple of those topics were. Now, there's some that I don't think are necessarily available. We should not make available for public consumption.
Please don't make me do my Marlon Brando again.
Well, the very first one, we can talk about it.
Yeah, and I think
It's-
that's the one that I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Is that was the one that when Omar said that a lot of people talked about it, a lot of people talked about it, and it was this idea that that our entered apprentices and our fellow crafts were concerned, and there was some concern about master masons, that there was a little too much languishing in the state of entered apprentice, that they were not being shepherded through that's a good word, thank you, shepherded through the entered apprentice and the fellow craft degrees and the master mason degree with proper mentorship, with proper direction, and that they were just kind of expected to make it up as they went along. And we had to look in the mirror about that, because we've always been very proud of the way that 148 handles new candidates, the way that we handle our new candidate process, our candidacy process, our petitioning process, our investigation process. That's always been something that we've been really proud of. And then on the other side of that, we've always been really proud about how we do degrees, that we bring, I think, an A game when it comes to our degree work. It is an initiatic experience that I think is on par with some of the best degree work in the state. And then there was this gap that we were kind of blind to for a while, that is the in between those two places.
I wasn't blind to it.
Well,
I was a victim of it.
Yeah, and I think
So were
that
you.
Sean was too. And I came to 148 as a member that was transferred. Yeah, I was transferring my membership here.
I came to 148 perfect. I don't know about y'all, but
And so we identified this problem, and it's been kind of a work in progress. And then I guess what, about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit sooner, maybe 3 months ago.
and actually that we started discussing this, and it wasn't even, we didn't even discuss this at Lodge. I think we were at refreshment.
Yeah.
And it just kind of came up with
We need to
just
fix this problem.
Yeah, we kind of recognized that this was something that
We needed to start taking it
we
seriously.
didn't have a process in place necessarily.
We did, but it was really loosey goosey.
Yeah,
Well,
and it,
the big problem is we're relying on the EAs to ask us for help.
Yeah, that was the
And-
big problem.
And they're too proud to ask us for help.
Yeah, we were just for full transparency, we were really taking the position that the entered apprentices, the fellow crafts, and the master masons in turning in their catechism should kind of own their process. That they should be demonstrating to us that they wanted the process, they wanted to seek out the education, that they wanted to that they were the people who were spearheading their own catechism work.
And I don't think that works with
And
modern.
it failed.
modern-
Let's just be honest. It
Yeah,
failed miserably.
flopped.
It
Flopped.
was a flop,
So,
Tina.
so what we did first thing is we committed to being at the temple at a certain time every week, ready to work.
So no matter what's going on, there's always going to be somebody at the temple on a Monday night, ready to work on the memory work, making sure that they don't have an excuse not to be there. And we also told them that we will make ourselves available, whether or not anybody shows up. Here's the thing: people started showing up.
Yeah.
And now we have our EAs actually moving much more crisply through the process. It's much more streamlined, and I think that.
but it's still nowhere near perfect.
It's not perfect.
But at least we've got the process in place. Again, this is something that's not gonna heal itself overnight, because it didn't start overnight.
Right. This was a long-term process that started, and it started a little bit before COVID. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
COVID made it real bad. And then whenever we came back from COVID, I think we were all being pulled in like 15,000 different directions, trying to get masonry spinning again. And we just kind of let this continue to languish. And now we're really addressing it.
I think one of the best things that came out of this is part of starting up the Monday where we have floor school or education and, helping. We actually reached out to all the EAs and fellow crafts and told them, like, hey, sorry, we screwed up. Our commitment is this now moving forward. And we've actually started having EAs and fellowcraft started coming back up that I hadn't seen in a couple of weeks, months. And now they're continuously coming up every day, and they have leaps and bounds have gone through their degree work and are learning as they should be.
Yeah, it's made a big difference, and we identified it before the Lodge Summit. Some of that is still cropping back up because the system, like Cody said, is not perfect yet, but it is at least now workable, and we can now have a system that we can improve. Another issue that kind of popped up was, and I think that we can all own this because I think Masonry across the board can own this. We are really great at coming up with ideas. We are idea people.
That was the number 3 topic.
Yeah, that was like
Yeah, that
number
was
three.
number 3, yeah.
Number 3 or number 4. We are really great at ideas. We are often terrible at actually executing on those ideas because we are great at coming up with ideas that we think would be great for other people to do, but we're not willing to necessarily own this great idea ourselves.
And I think with this one, it's kind of interesting, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, and Sean's here, is where we're sitting at right now. The Lodge Summit was an idea that I had come up with, and we kind of discussed at it. But it was during Sean's year as Worshipful Master, and so I brought this to him, and he gave me kind of the leverage to go, okay, this sounds like a good idea. Here's my stamp of approval. Go with it. So, Sean, can you talk to maybe the idea of, as a Worshipful Master, if a brother brings you an idea, how would you address the idea of, okay, that's a great idea, follow through with it?
Good question. It's probably like one of those skills of leadership that's really important, in that if someone comes to you with an idea and you're delegated as leader or decision maker, especially financially, let them explain it. And and if it sounds like it has a probability of success, if it sounds like it has a financial plan that you can afford, that's the biggest part, right? Can you afford to do it? If you can afford to do it, does it make sense, and is it going to be successful? And if they sound confident in their explanation and it convinces you, just let them go and develop a plan. I mean, you don't even have to give approval right away. Give a conditional. Say, I like this. Go flesh it out. Bring me back the plan and see what it looks like. Or if it's fully developed already, because sometimes they are, like this was kind of a fully developed plan presented. You say, yeah, let's do this. Here's your budget. What do you think you need? And then, okay, let's see if we can meet that. Here's your budget. Go forth and prosper. And then let them do it. Let them go. I think the biggest thing is if you're the Worshipful Master, you don't have to get involved or try to micromanage it. They got the idea. Let them run it. Let them plan it.
As Worshipful Master, I had no idea what we're doing this weekend. It's like, I trust that my officers are going to have a great program.
Well, and I think that also goes back to the fact that as a member of 148, I feel comfortable coming to the leadership of the lodge, even though I'm in the line right now. I still try to look at myself as also I'm a member of the lodge, and it's important to me to feel free in my lodge to go to people and say, hey, I have this idea, and not automatically get shot down, but to be heard, but also be challenged. If you have a great idea, it may be a great idea, but be ready to get some challenge and say like, well, yeah, that sounds great, but how are you going to do that? Or, that sounds like a great idea. That's going to be a lot of money. Is there something that we can do differently? Just like we talked on the podcast last time. Not every lodge is going to be financially stable to rent an Airbnb and do the things that we're doing. But again, go back to that podcast and listen. You've got a lodge building. You've got a lodge room. Have everybody come up to the lodge for the evening. Bring your sleeping bag with you and sleep in the lodge room.
Well, one of my first things when I was elected secretary is Gabe and Evie and I don't remember who else was there, came to my house to talk about Gabe's budget that year. It was an 8-hour conversation. And we covered a lot of topics similar to what we did here today. So you can do it at a brother's house.
And we've had a couple different occasions where we met at your house or somebody else's house and
We're
hashed
getting
things
flashed.
out.
Sorry.
Oh Lord, put your clothes on, sir.
Look how much slimmer he is. Let's give him some props.
I tell you what, those past masters of 148 is out of control.
No. This is why we can't do a video.
Why is there not a dump button?
No, we, to Brandy's point, we've had a couple sessions like that. Pretty much for every year when the incoming Worshipful Master is about to be installed, we're planning his budget, and so we usually get together the dais officers and the treasurer and maybe a couple of the past masters so that we can see what we've been doing, what works well, what doesn't work well, and put it into our budget and plan our year. And I know that we're talking up here, and most lodges don't even form budgets. But we have a podcast about that. You can find it.
I think the other thing, too, that I'm kind of hearing as a kind of like a central idea here is that for your lodge to be successful or to get onto the road to success, you have to understand that there is going to be investment. So we are investing not only money, but we're investing time. And honestly, let's be frank here. Time is an investment that can be made that honestly is free. I mean, you're going to have to sacrifice some things for that one, but it doesn't take money for you to sacrifice time to sit with your brothers for 4 or 5 hours and discuss something that's really, really important. So that is a place that you can start.
And that's one of the things that I think you actually, it might have been you, I can't remember because we've had so many great conversations. But we talked about that if it was Jeremy that brought this up, that's right, one of our past masters. He said
Who
that
just flashed us.
Who just flashed us. If something is important to you, you're going to make the time for it. No one has the time to do masonry. Everyone in masonry makes the time for it. I know Sean would probably much rather be spending time with his family. He's got kids that need his time. Cody has a spouse that needs his attention. So does Brandy.
My wife is literally at Oktoberfest right now without me.
Yes, and so we have all of us have things that we might rather be doing or would be doing in lieu of being at this Lodge Summit. And yes, this Lodge Summit is great. It's fun. We're having a great time. But we did a lot of work. We weren't like frolicking in the fields back here. We were in a building, looking at a screen, typing on Google Docs and putting things together and doing the hard work of Freemasonry. And so if it's important to you, you're going to make the time for it. You're going to make the effort for it. And if you don't have the money to do it, to Cody's point, there are options that are cost effective to do these sorts of things. If masonry is important to you, do yourself the favor and do your lodge the favor, if I might commend it to you, to take the time to do these things. It's worthwhile, and it has paid off in dividends for Fort Worth 148. We've gone from what Omar was talking about when we started really reaching into these kind of like key things that you can work on to make your lodge more successful. This document was the on-ramp to that. And once we really started like tackling those things, and the masters of those years started making those, yes, financial investments, but more so the time investments to make things better, our lodge, the degree work went through the roof. We right now have how many EAs and fellowcrafts kind of going through our system now?
We currently, if I'm correct on this one, I want to say that we no longer have a fellowcraft. He has progressed into his masters.
We have one inactive fellowcraft.
We have one inactive fellowcraft. We had 14 EAs on the books. With the study hall that we have gotten into, out of those 14, I think we have 8 or 9 that are actively at study hall. And in fact, I know that we've got at least probably 2 of our EAs that have progressed rapidly and should be getting ready to be able to turn in their proficiencies.
Well, we just did the double EA, so it's actually 16 now.
Okay, never mind. Yeah,
and so those 2 are active and studying.
And then we also have, about 6 people in the candidacy, the prospective candidate period.
We have
6 to 8.
I think. 6 to 8. It depends. I think it's. We just had a new candidate night, and I think we got 2 more added into that. So
there's one poor unfortunate soul who filled out our candidate survey, and we're usually diligent about responding in 24 hours, but they did it while we came here, so we're not responding in 24 hours.
So if you're listening to this podcast, know that we
We'll
know
get with
you're
you. We
will
promise.
get there. But the thing is, this is the kind of success that I think that lodges can. I would characterize our lodge as a success. I don't think that that's going out on a limb to say that. We have a lot of people interested in our lodge. We have been really shepherding people through this process. We have a lot of people in the process. But that wasn't always the case. We were
But
one of
it
those.
takes work.
It
It
took a
takes
lot
work.
of work to get to a point where we could have almost 20 people going through the various stages of our candidacy process, and we've shown that we have a pretty good and strong turnover in creating Master Masons. Not that that's our goal, because we always emphasize to them as Omar and Sean and I are on our new candidate night team. We often emphasize to them, we might want you as a member, but we don't need you as a member. Freemasonry doesn't need you. You don't have a right to be a Freemason, but we might want you. And getting to know you is that process.
I think that what you just said, Evie, I would challenge lodges out there, if you have never taken a look at that idea of your lodge doesn't need those new guys. It's more that like they need you type thing. If you start taking that type of attitude, it's not an elitist attitude. It's not like we're better or anything like that. But if you start taking that attitude, you're going to start finding out that you are going to focus on the value that you have. It's going to start making things that you want to do. It's going to make you want to sharpen yourself more and more. Sean, do you have anything to say on that one?
Yeah, I know you're fond of the saying iron sharpens iron, right? Everything circles back to what we were discussing earlier. Like one of our primary goals here is just to grow each other, grow our lodge. Now that doesn't mean that we have to be hurting for people like we're discussing, right? And we want to grow it well. You don't want to force
And not growing it in quantity, but in quality.
Yep. Quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Absolutely.
So we finished up with the family session. We had a nice lunch of vegetables and fruit, and maybe some tacos and nachos. And then after lunch, we were able
With
to
some metalachi in the background.
with metalachi. Yes, if you don't know what metalachi is, go and look it up. Okay,
It's a great music that
it's a
I
great
discovered
way
it
to
today.
get you pumped up.
Especially for us people with the Tejano persuasion.
Is that what we call that
Yeah,
now?
everybody
Persuasion.
Everybody in Texas, regardless of your ethnicity or heritage, if you're born here, you're a little bit Tejano. So it's a Tejano persuasion.
This is a challenge.
Omar is laughing right now. Just
This is a
thinking how
challenge.
sad
This is a
is.
challenge to Luke. We want to see if you know what
Metalachi.
Metalachi is, and we want to see if you're playing it in the garage.
Do you think the people in the UK know that chips and salsa is an individual food group?
At least it is in Texas.
What's salsa? Can you explain that one?
Oh yeah, well, I mean,
That's a podcast.
I mean, I don't think
It's
so
not
because they
anything made
eat
in New
beans on
York.
toast, and that's a breakfast for them.
yeah, and we haven't even broached on queso yet.
Blood sausage?
oh my gosh.
I'm out.
Oy.
But you have to give it to them. They do, like people in the UK,
sorry,
that
blood pudding.
full
Sorry.
British breakfast thing that they do. That's not just the beans on toast, but the full. I've
blood
heard good things.
sausage and all that
well, I
kind
don't know
of-
about that, but I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but I might have to turn down the blood sausage.
I'm fond of talking of this. I was attached to a British unit in Afghanistan for a really long time, so I got really spoiled when we got to go back to the main fobs and their chow halls with the full British breakfast, because somehow they did it in the middle of Afghanistan. It's still there. It was amazing. All the time.
Well, maybe one of these days we'll be able to head over and Brother Luke can serve us all up or take us to a place where we can get us Yanks over here, get a full British.
Can you imagine a whole bunch of 148 guys let loose in the United Kingdom? I mean, oh my gosh. So we had our sensible lunch, and then we went back to the rules and regulations. We kind of reviewed what we talked about before lunch. and we decided of those things, what do we need to put into the rules and regulations, and what are the things that we discussed that we can have conversations about. We added 3 things to our rules and regulations based upon our discussion and the family session, and then we were able to go back and actually finish 2 of the rules that we're kind of stuck on.
And they were mostly financial.
They were
be
financial
transparent.
ones, but for some reason it was kind of like
it was in the weeds.
Yeah, we were able to kind of get ourselves out of the weeds, and it kind of clarified. It was really interesting.
It was funny
clicked.
that we couldn't do it before lunch, and it wasn't because any of us were hungry. Because by the way, we have so many snacks here that none of us have been hungry. But
plenty of fruits and vegetables.
Plenty
okay?
of fruits and vegetables. But we did manage to circle back around, and then after lunch, that conversation clicked in a way that was really surprising to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And we were able to get our rules and regulations. We've got those ready to roll. We're going to take those back to 148 at the next stated meeting and present those things. And then, of course, Brother Sean here, he gave us a little bit of. We've talked about how 148 uses Slack as a communication tool, gave us some etiquette things and stuff like that. And then we talked about rules of dress. We were finished by 4:00, and bada bing, bada boom.
Here we are on a podcast.
So that's a recap of the weekend. Tomorrow morning, we're going to wake up. Our dear brother, Reverend Evie Kirkendall, is going to be leading us with a little devotional before we leave out. And Lodge Summit 2025 will have come to a close.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of naturally brings us to a close here. As always, if you have any comments, please make sure you're commenting on whatever platform you are getting your podcasts from, whether it's Apple, Spotify, wherever. We also, if you want to send us a message, that's how we have gotten to know Brother Luke a little bit better, by seeing him working on in his regular vocation while listening to the podcast, and we appreciate that. If you would like to send us a video and send us a shout out, we would be more than happy to. We'd love to hear from you. It's always great to get feedback from our brothers, both locally and internationally, who are listening. And if you are that listener in North Korea and you can find a way to get us a message, send us a message. We would love to hear from you. So that is today's show. My name is Evie Kirkendall, and I'm signing off.
Brandy Patton, sign off.
This is Cody Cox signing off.
Omar Galiazi signing off.
Sean DeBon signing off.